keep that net down in the water. Put your net in the water so you don't have to shoot at them. Go after him.
Come on. Come on, buddy. Oh, if he gets off.
Well, he was almost in your net.
Almost.
You got to get that net underneath him, bud.
Get that net underneath him. Get the net down in the water. Come on, get that net down under the water.
Get the whole net in the water. There you go. Oh.
We got ourselves a beautiful, what do we call this?
Palomino?
A palomino, a golden rainbow trout. Look at your dad.
Wow.
See that? You want to hold him? Now get your hands under him just like I have. The other hand, twist this hand around. There you go. All right. You got him? All right. There we go. Good job, bud. That was fun. We spotted him out.
That's nice.
Put him back down in the net.
Nice. Look.
Slow, Jacob.
Nice and slow.
That guy.
Look at that.
Right there.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, let's get a good. Oh, shoot.
Oh, and he's gone.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Hey, I'm just going to move this pulpit just a little bit to center myself. And while I do that, I understand that stomping your feet expresses gratitude for the food. So let's do that again, all right? What an excellent meal. Ben, thanks for that wonderful introduction. It's really good to be here tonight. But before I tell you more about me, I want to tell you about this young man, Jacob. Jacob, when we took this video last spring, was about 10 years old and just getting into fishing. We got any young boys and girls here interested in fishing? I saw a lot of kids getting flashlights. So hopefully this evening I can spark your interest and give you just enough information, parents and kids, to just get out there and go fishing. We have this wonderful opportunity to be sportsmen and to fish. And Jacob, I'll tell you what, Jacob was really into it. He didn't start out fly fishing. So I'm going to be talking a lot tonight about fly fishing. But just get out there and go fishing. Whether you got a bait casting rod and you're using bait, or you're got a spin casting rod and you're using a spinner, that's how I got started. Or if you want to get into fishing with a fly rod, which is what I want to talk to you about tonight. I got Jacob that day to use a fly rod, and he was doing quite well. And we ended up getting into another fish later that day. And so here's Jacob caught a very nice rainbow trout. This trout was caught on the Neshannock Creek. I can't imagine anybody in the room will know where the Neshannock Creek is, but Neshannock Creek is in Mercer County, which is all the way to the western part of Pennsylvania, in a small town called Volant. If you're fancy, you call it Volant, but it's Volant. That's how we say it, and that's where I live. And my home waters are in western Pennsylvania, and I get to fish for palomino trout. Most of the trout in the Neshannock are stocked fish, and I know a lot of the fishing around here for trout is also stocked by the Pennsylvania Boat and Game Commission, and they do an excellent job filling our waters with trout. And I've been chasing trout across our wonderful Keystone State for 20 years. Actually, more than fly fishing for 20 years, but you know, my parents raised me on the Yawk River, and I've been trying to catch trout since I was probably 6-7 years old in Pennsylvania, and I've been chasing them ever since. So like I said, I live in Volant, which is about an hour north of Pittsburgh and about an hour south of Lake Erie. And so just an hour drive up from my place. You know, many of you may have heard of steelhead fishing. Steelhead come out of the Lake Erie, and they make their way up into the tributaries, and they can be giant fish. Sometimes you catch them small, 16, 17, 18 inches, but you can catch a steelhead that looks a lot like a rainbow trout, up to 30, 32 inches. There are some hogs that live in that come out of the lake and swim up into these small tributaries, and you can catch them with any kind of gear, but I like to catch them with my fly fishing gear. And my buddies who are watching either on the YouTube live stream tonight or on the Facebook live stream will probably tell you that I actually don't fish for steelhead. But that is evidence. So guys that are watching, they're going to bust me up over this. Look at that. That fish was caught. I won't tell you what year it was caught, but that fish is a steelhead, and it was caught up in Lake Erie. But I don't just fish in western Pennsylvania. That's a beautiful brown trout, not stocked. The native lives right in Spring Creek and State College. So State College is what, an hour, a little over an hour from here? And I want you all to know, I'm here to talk to you about fly fishing tonight. And the central part of our state, you got Spring Creek that fish was caught on. There's Spruce Creek. I was talking to a gentleman earlier about Spruce Creek. There is the Little Juliana River. And then there's Penns Creek, which, starts in State College, and it makes its way all the way to the Susquehanna River, just about 10 miles above here. And so if you're at all interested in fly fishing, hopefully tonight I can just give you enough information to keep you informed, maybe spike your interest. But the truth of the matter is, you live in prime real estate, this slice of paradise that God has given you, the Likens Valley, which, by the way, I was very impressed yesterday when I drove in. What a gorgeous, gorgeous place this is. This is a wonderful area to learn how to fly fish. And so hopefully tonight I can, again, spike your interest and just give you enough information to whet your appetite for fly fishing. But I haven't only just been an angler in Pennsylvania. For the last 20 years, I've been chasing trout out west as well. Here I am on a rock that's shaped like a reclining chair. And do you know what you do when you find a rock in the shape of a reclining chair? You stop fishing and you take a nap, all right? And Pennsylvania sportsmen are very good at taking naps in the wilderness. And so this particular day, I was in Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming, one of our country's most prized and beautiful places and national parks. My buddies and I were doing an overnight backpacking trip, and we woke up that morning, and we were all fishing, and I'm working my way down the stream and caught a couple nice fish, and I saw that rock. And I was like, yep, time to relax a little bit and just take in the beauty of God's wonderful creation. And so there I am in Yellowstone, and when you're out in Yellowstone, again, this was like 11 miles from any road. So there wasn't a whole lot of people around, and the fishing out in this country is just perfect and pristine and beautiful, and you catch fish like this. That is a West Slope, Eric Weller, that's for you, you taught me that. A West Slope golden cutthroat. You find these in Yellowstone National Park, and that's about as gorgeous of a fish as you'll find in the most gorgeous of places. And I've been chasing fish like that in Yellowstone and out west for quite some time. On fish beyond Yellowstone as well, I've been all through Montana fishing. My favorite river in Montana is the Madison River. And I've been chasing the elusive Madison Brown. And so that right there is a Madison Brown trout. It took me several years out there fishing to be able to figure out how to catch fish that size and that beautiful. But that's a Madison River brown trout in Montana. From Montana, I've been down to Utah. That's actually Jacob's dad. All right, you see the resemblance other than the old gray beard? So young Jacob, who I was fishing with on my home waters, that's his dad, Mike. And Mike loves the Lord, and we've been fishing together for a number of years now. And we went out to the Green River in Utah, and we tried to figure out that river. And me and him and another buddy, we fished hard all day long, and that was the only fish we caught all day long. But it was worth it. What a gorgeous, gorgeous fish, again, in a gorgeous area. The canyon walls in along the Green River, you can kind of see it in the background there. When the sun hits it, it's as red as those pews that you're sitting in. It just the sun just makes it radiate. Below Utah, I've been to New Mexico. This was just this past August. I was in New Mexico with a good friend of mine named Joe. We took just a little trip, just he and I. Normally when I go out west, I go with a group of guys. That's part of what it means for me to fish, is to fish with friends. I'll be talking more about that later. But me and my buddy Joe took a trip out to New Mexico and fished the San Juan River here. I'll tell you what, the San Juan River in New Mexico is like, it's like it's a trout tourist trap. So if you're a trout fisherman and you ever want to go to a place where there are just giant fish living in water that you can just see and float over, San Juan is the place to be. We fished there for just a couple days, and then we made our way up into Colorado. And this was this past August, and we had this plan to fish in the Black Canyon of the Gunnison National Park. Anybody been there? The Black Canyon of the Gunnison National Park. You mean of all, who here's been to Yellowstone National Park? Look at that, half the hands would go up. Yosemite? Hands. The Black Canyon of the Gunnison National Park is the least visited national park in our entire 48 states, continental United States. And I'll tell you why, I don't know why, because it is gorgeous. You've been to the Grand Canyon? People been to the Grand Canyon? Lots of people have been to the Grand Canyon. You got to go to the Black Canyon. And you can, my buddy Joe and I had this plan to get a permit to hike down into the canyon. That's 2,500 feet of elevation over the course of just 3 miles. So think about that in terms of a triangle, right? That is a steep decline. And so we got a permit to hike down there, to camp overnight down there, and to fish an entire stretch of river that the only people that would be fishing down there were stupid enough, like me and Joe, to hike all the way down in there, knowing that once you got down there and fishing, what do you got to do after that? 2,500 feet getting out. It took us 5 hours to get down. Imagine how many hours it took us to get up. 10. It was a hike out. But we got to stay there the night, and this next picture I want to show you is probably the most gorgeous trout that I've ever caught in the most gorgeous, gorgeous park. This here is a beautiful rainbow trout caught in the evening, and you can just kind of see the sun's getting ready to sparkle on that canyon wall. And then the next morning we had to hike all the way out there. And so that's me. I've been chasing trout for 20 years in Pennsylvania and out west, and all of my adventures I try to take video footage of all my adventures, and I chronicle all of my trips on my YouTube channel, which is called The Angler's Path. And while you were waiting here and for your meal and just hanging out here this evening, we had some videos rolling. I'm going to show you a couple other videos, but I want you to know that I'm just not here today as somebody that's different. If you're not a fly fisherman, I want you to know that I haven't always been a fly fisherman. And before I even had a YouTube channel, or before I even learned how to fly fish, I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, in the woods of Western Pennsylvania, wearing Pennsyltucky tuxedos. You know what a Pennsylvania tuxedo is? Anybody know what a Pennsylvania tuxedo is? There you go. I'm wearing it right there. Who here has worn Pennsylvania tuxedo? The black and white checkered Woolwich. Yeah, there and there. There I am on the far left. My younger brother there in the middle. And my older brother on the right's wearing the state color. You know the state color? The official state color of Pennsylvania is blaze orange. I was looking at this picture earlier, and I was zooming in, and you can't really see it because it's kind of blurry, but I was zooming into my face, and my goodness, I can't believe at that age how much I look like my mom. I mean, I look like a pretty girl there. I don't know. My brother on the far left. So if I got the brains or the beauty, then which I certainly grew out of very quickly. My brother, as you'll see some footage of him tonight, he got the brawn. So maybe I got the brains and my brother got the brawn. And my middle brother, you know what he got? Kids, listen up. My middle brother, you know what he got? He got into drugs. And I don't mean to be a spoiler here, but he died at a very young age because of his drug habits, his drug addictions. Rest in peace to my younger brother. But boys, girls, stay out of the drugs. Go fishing. Go hunting. Stay out of the drugs. Because eventually, this picture of 3 brothers growing up, hunting, and fishing together is now just 2 of us. So just take that to heart. I'm not here to spoil your night or get too much into that, but, just stay out of the drugs, kids. Once you get hooked on that, it's no good. I'd rather you get hooked on some fish. Can I get an amen from parents and grandparents in the room? All right, kids. It's so good to see so many kids out here tonight as well. And you know what? I don't care if you flash those flashlights at me. Go right ahead. That means you're here and you're paying attention. All right? Go ahead, parents. Here they go. I see. But yeah, there I am growing up in the woods of western Pennsylvania. Loved to hunt, just couldn't wait to hunt. By the time I was 16, I was able to hunt by myself. So I'd come home from school and I'd go hunting. My parents wouldn't even care. I'd just come home and grab my 30-30, my Marlin, lever action. Any fans out there? 30-30 Marlin, lever action? Yeah, you don't have to go far in Pennsylvania to find a gun owner who has a 30-30. And I just, I'd build a tree stand all by myself below the house that we grew up in. And, just after school every day I would go and I'd go hunting and it paid off. I drug the deer home with some stranger I found in the woods and I'm dragging them down the road into the backyard. And my mom comes rolling. She says, "Where have you been?" I have no idea. This obviously before cell phones, right? I said, "Mom, look, I just killed my first buck." "Oh, great." Oh, it was what a wonderful memory. We threw that thing in the back of our 1983 Impala. Yeah, and we drove around with, all around telling everyone, because you didn't have social media back then. The only way you could tell people you killed a buck is to actually take it to them. So we threw that thing in the back of that boat of an 83 Impala, and we drove to my aunts and my uncles and my grandparents and all my friends just bragging. Good stories, right? These are stories of being a sportsman. And I'll tell you what, after 16, I turned 18, went off to college, didn't hunt much in college, didn't fish much in college. After college, went off and got married, went off to seminary in New Jersey. And I really didn't hunt or fish until I got back into western Pennsylvania about 20 years ago. And my last time, I went probably a good 10 years without hunting or fishing until a buddy of mine says, "Hey, Augie, let's go bear hunting." I'm like, I've never gone bear hunting before. And I'm not going to tell you the story, but anybody here ever been bear hunting? Bear hunt just one time and killed a bear? Anybody? One time. First time. How many hours in the woods? 1 hour. You're the first person I've met in my life with a broken foot. Give it up to that man. He's hunted bear for 1 hour with a broken foot and still killed a bear. Well, I was out for 2 hours, and I killed my first bear in 2015. Only 2 hours of bear hunting I ever had to put in the woods. Guys, gals, I don't know what's so hard about it. It's pretty easy. Let me tell you the trick. Here's a trick of killing a bear. You got to be in the wrong place at the right time. And that's exactly what happened to me. My guys told me where to go, and I stood there, and I decided to leave and go look for something else, and here comes a bear, and next thing you know, I killed my first bear. And they even gutted it and drug it out of the woods for me. And those are some good friends. So yeah, I'm a sportsman just like everybody else. Just as recently, my son pictured here, this was his first doe. He killed that last fall. So my son's now interested in hunting. And so now I'm getting back into hunting. And this past year, we put in a food plot and bought some crossbows. And we put some arrows and some deer, but we didn't put any deer in our freezer. Apparently, it's not as easy as they say. You got to hit them just right. And so we got lots to learn. So I'm here this evening, obviously, to talk to you about fly fishing and share with you a bit about how it works, what it's about, why I do it, why it's so special for me, and why I have a passion. But if you're not a fly fisherman, I just want you to know that I'm in the room here with you as well. If you're just a sportsman who loves to shoot guns or trap or target shoot, like I'm with you. And isn't it great to have a place to gather with fellow sportsmen? Whether you're here as a hunter or a fisher or a trapper or a target shooter, grandma, grandpa, aunts, uncles. And so I want to give it up to Pastor Ben and the folks here at Reigles Bible Fellowship for putting on an event that we can just get together and be sportsmen and know that we're in good fellowship together. Can I get an amen for that? Round of applause here for Pastor Ben and his whole team. I understand this has been going on for about 22 years. Really good. And I learned that last summer when I was on a mission trip in West Virginia. As much as I'd love to tell you that I'm a full-time angler and a full-time sportsman, I'm not. I'm a full-time parent who pulls his hair out with teenagers, and I have a full-time job. And my full-time job is I'm a Presbyterian pastor of a small congregation about this size in Western Pennsylvania. And I have the opportunity every summer to work with a group of youth and folks from my congregation and area churches. We go on a mission trip. And so there's that same kid who shot that deer, that's him there, and there I am in a t-shirt that's too big to try to hide my belly. And there's just friends from our church and our community, and that's what I do for a living. So I don't want to put on any false facade here tonight. I'm not a professional angler. I don't own a fly shop. I'm not here to peddle any products. I'm a full-time preacher, a Presbyterian pastor. And when I was on this mission trip, I got to meet this group of folks. You notice anybody there? There's Pastor Ben. There's Dylan. Dylan, where you at? Under a pew. There he is, hanging out with Pap. All right, Gene. Gene, you in the room? There he is. Everybody say hi to Gene back there. Gene was probably serving you corn. All right, we got Brandon here. Stacy and Randy aren't here. I think they're on another mission trip, or they're down in. Are they vacationing? Oh, yeah, all right. And then who else am I missing there? There's Holly. Holly was here last night. I'll tell you what. I spent a week with these people in the mission field, and these are about among the greatest people that you ever meet. So again, thanks to Pastor Ben, and we got to talking because if you can see here, Ben's wearing it's probably the only T-shirts that he wears. For 22 years, he's been collecting these Likens Valley T-shirts. In fact, Ben, this is probably the 9th or 10th day I've ever been in your presence, and every single day I've been in your presence in my lifetime, you've been wearing a Likens Valley T-shirt. I got to hang out with you another 11 or 12 days before I see if you have any more types of T-shirts, all right? And so I had to ask. Ben and Randy, they had this Likens Valley T-shirt every single day for like 7 days straight, and they were all different shirts. And so finally, I pull up next to Pastor Benjamin at one of our meals, and I said, what is this Likens Valley Sportsman thing? And he goes on telling me exactly what this is, and I can see why he's proud of it. What a great gathering. And he says, yeah, we usually have a presenter, and we have like a game dinner. And I said, oh, I spoke at a game dinner once. He says, really? I said, yeah. I said, I gave a presentation on fly fishing. And he says, really? We've always wanted somebody to come in and talk about fly fishing. And I told him, well, yeah, I have a YouTube channel, and I dabble with it a little bit. And that was really the end of the conversation. He woke up the next morning, and I saw him in the hallway in the mission house, and he says, hey, you didn't almost die. There was no bear in that video. You made me watch your whole... I said, I didn't make you watch anything. You fell for the clickbait on my YouTube channel. But then he watched the whole video, and he realized that, you know what? Maybe I should offer an invitation to Augie to come and speak to you all about fly fishing. And before you know it, you got a new T-shirt. You got a Palomino trout on it. You got a guy in front of you wanting to talk about fly fishing. And I don't know if you got your T-shirt in your hand. If you look in the small print, the disclaimer underneath it, there's a Bible verse there. We got a kid who can read us that Bible verse on the bottom of that T-shirt. Somebody stand up and read that. Come on, yell it out for us. Brandon, what's it say, buddy? What's your T-shirt say on the bottom of your T-shirt? You haven't read your T-shirt yet? What's it say? And he said unto them, follow me and I'll make you fishers of men. Actual Bible verse. Here it is here. While walking by the Sea of Galilee, Jesus, this is Jesus speaking, he saw two brothers, okay, Simon, who's also called Peter, his brother Andrew, and he called to them. They were casting net into the sea because they were fishermen. And he said to them, follow me, and I'll make you fishers of men. Now you're thinking, I got a preacher standing in front of me and supposed to be talking about fly fishing, but he's about to start preaching. I'm not going to do it. I just want you to read that verse. Be mindful of the fact that Jesus, the Lord and Savior of all humanity, called ordinary, plain, rather unintelligent fishermen like myself to be a follower of him. And if fishermen, sportsmen are qualified to be entrusted with the most important message ever to come across humanity, then it's probably something we ought to take heed to. Do you ever ask yourself the question, why would Jesus use fishermen to entrust his message of the coming kingdom of God and eternal salvation? Why fishermen? It doesn't really make any sense. Think about who else he could have called. I mean, who did the angels call to say, hey, this guy's going to be born? Who did the angels show up to? Shepherds? That would make sense. Why didn't he call shepherds to be his disciples? They could care for the house of Israel. That's what shepherds do. They care for sheep. Who else came to see Jesus when he was born? Come on, wise men. The wisest men in the entire Orient came to see him. You would think Jesus, coming with the message that he had, he'd go straight into Jerusalem, ask the Pharisees and the Sadducees for the smartest students, young men in rabbi school, and say, hey, I got an important message I want to teach them, and they're going to be really influential in getting the most important message out to the entire earth. And he didn't. No shepherds. No smart kids. He called ordinary fishermen, sportsmen. Dang it! You know what I'm doing? Ben, what am I doing? I'm preaching. I'm trying not to preach up here today. I want to talk to you about fly fishing. But I can't help but talk about Jesus and fly fishing because in my mind, there's no clear line between my love for being a fisherman and me following Jesus to be a fisher of men. And apparently Jesus didn't see any clear indication or clear distinction either because he called who to be his followers? Fishermen. Perhaps Norman McLean puts it best. Anybody watch or see the movie River Runs Through It? One of my favorite movies of all time. Yeah, Norman McLean, look here, he says, in our family, there was no clear line between fly fishing and religion. My father was a Presbyterian minister, a fly fisherman, who tied his own flies and taught others. And he told us about Christ's disciples being fishermen. So for me, fly fishing is part of my faith. It's not just something I do in my spare time. And I want to share that with you tonight. Here's what I want to talk about tonight, just briefly on each point. I want to talk to you about fly fishing as a way to catch fish. You can actually take a fly rod and a fly line just like this and tie a fly at the end of it and catch a fish. It's really a cool thing to do. Okay? It's a way to catch fish. But as I've indicated, fly fishing to me has been more than just a way to catch fish. It's a way to connect with the rhythms of God's beautiful creation. It truly is. As you see in the pictures and some of the videos, standing in a stream with living water coming through your legs, and you're fishing for the most beautiful species of fish that you'll ever see, and their color, and the trees, and the birds, and the sunsets, and the landscapes, and the mountains, and the meadows. It's gorgeous, and you can't help but receive power in that beauty that God has given us. And so fly fishing for me is more than just a way to catch fish. It's a way to connect with those rhythms of God's creation. And I bet the same's for all of you who go out and stand in the woods and wait for a deer to walk by. Yeah? Or chase rabbits. Or try to flush pheasants. Being in God's wonderful creation gives us power, and that power is connected to a beauty. And I bet you all know that, because you know why I know that? Because you're here. And so fly fishing's that for me as well. And then beyond just catching a fish and being in creation, I get to do it. I get to do it with other people. People who also love to do it as a recreational activity. The friendships and fellowship that I have over the years as a fly fisherman and as a sportsman are among my greatest friendships I've ever fostered in my entire life. So, enough about that. Let's watch a video. Let's watch a video of I could stand here and try and explain this to you. Fly fishing is a way to catch fish, and connect with the rhythms of creation and connect with fellow fishermen and sportsmen and a recreational activity. But perhaps the best way for me to explain that to you is for you to watch this video that I have for you. This is a video of me and a buddy of mine, Dave. We were out in Yellowstone in fall of 2021. And I'm going to be honest with you. This video was at the end of the trip. And I had caught so many fish the day before. I literally caught 100 fish the day prior. And I just said to myself, you know what? I don't really care to catch any fish today. Because fly fishing is more to me than just catching fish. And I wanted to see my friend Dave catch fish. But here was the trick. I didn't just want to take him to the place where I caught 100 fish the day before. I wanted to take him in a 12-hour period to several places in Yellowstone National Park to try and do something that even I have never yet done. And that is to catch 4 species of trout in the same day in 4 different rivers. Take a look at the Yellowstone Grand Slam. Today's my last day here in Yellowstone. I'll be fishing with Dave. The other guys in our group flew out this morning. And so Dave and I have a goal to get what's called a Yellowstone Grand Slam. And that is we're going to catch a cutthroat, a rainbow, a brown, and a brook trout. And so we got about 12 hours to accomplish this. We're going to start here behind me with the Yellowstone River, work our way downstream to where it meets the confluence of the Lamar River. So we're pretty sure we're going to get the cutthroat in hand here, and it should be a great morning of fishing. Dave got the Grand Slam started. Looks like we got a fish on. Let's see what it is. All right, there we have our first fish of the Grand Slam day, and Dave got himself a rainbow out of the Lamar River.
Oh yeah.
All right, excellent. Dave's already on the board with his rainbow. He got his rainbow out of the Lamar, which is right behind us there. And he and I are now standing at the confluence of the Lamar River. And behind me here is the Yellowstone River. I'm fairly certain we're getting a couple cutthroats here in the Yellowstone. And so, buddy, I think we're off to a good start.
Heck yeah, we are.
All right, let's get it going.
Grand Slam.
Grand Slam, here we come. And just like that, we're into another fish. Looks like a good one, Dave. This is, we're still technically in the Lamar here. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
We got a cutthroat right at the confluence. He's gone. Didn't take long here at the Gardner. Dave's 3 out of 4 so far. Let's see that beautiful brown trout.
Here he is.
Beautiful red spots. Look at that, beautiful red spots on that brown trout. All right, Dave and I are still working on our Grand Slam. We got 3 out of 4. We got a rainbow first this morning on the Lamar. Then we got a cutthroat also on the Lamar. We struck out on the Yellowstone. We headed over and got our brown trout on the Gardner River, just upstream from the High Bridge. And now here we are at the Sheep Eater Cliffs. And Dave and I are going to walk downstream. I'm pretty certain we're going to get into a brook trout here. So let's go complete the Grand Slam.
Let's get one.
Let's do it. Dave doesn't believe me that this is just like climbing down steps, getting down.
He doesn't believe you.
Getting down into this canyon wall. Come on, Dave. You got this, buddy.
I got it.
You got it. You're good. See? That easy. You got it, man.
I got it.
This here, coming down through this brush, this is called high sticking. High sticking. Got my rod through there. I barely made it myself.
Slam right
All
here.
right, and here's the key to completing the Grand Slam. We're going to throw that fly right up into the canyon. All right, while Dave's having his way upstream, trying to complete his grand slam, I threw on a little Sterling and Hurl, swung it down through a little tiny riffle, and I caught a little tiny fish, but it is a brook trout. Look at that, beautiful brook trout. There we go.
All right, here's Augie hooked up.
It's an orange-bellied one, bud.
Orange belly, it's what he was looking for. There he is, to the net.
Oh man, wait to see this fish. It's absolutely gorgeous. Holy cow. All right, I got another orange-bellied brook trout, but this time, this guy's got a black jaw. Can you come in? Look at this guy's black jaw. The black belly right underneath it. I'll put him in the water here. Just see the gorgeous colors of this fish. The white on the fins. Can you see that? Is it coming through?
Yeah, it's coming through great.
Man, just a beautiful, beautiful brook trout. Caught him on. Look at that big little jaw. That's going to be a big fish someday.
Oh yeah.
All right,
The
look
belly.
here. Beautiful. All right, so Dave now he's the one that's going to get the grand slam. He just couldn't hook him up. All right, Dave's got the right fly on. We've had several takes. Just a matter of getting the hook set. There we go. We got it. We finally pull it off. It's a grand slam.
That's a grand slam, baby.
It's a nice one too. It's a beautiful fish too.
Beautiful brookie.
Rod balance.
Hey buddy, look here. You got your grand slam. Ready?
Yes, I did.
Let's see the fish. Bring him up.
Look at that, beautiful.
Orange bellied. All right, put him back down in the neck, get him some water. Oh, beautiful, bud. Now let's get a picture. And that there, we just completed it. The grand slam.
Hell yeah,
Pow!
we did.
Good job, bud. Let's get that fish back. Bring him up to it. All right, go ahead and let's put that baby back home. We'll see you, guy.
He's gone. He's had enough.
All right, Dave, that's a wrap on the 2021 Yellowstone fly fishing trip.
Hell of a capstone.
Yeah, we had
Grand slam.
we had a grand slam today. Got a cutthroat, a rainbow, brown trout, and we just capped it off with a gorgeous brook trout. A wonderful week. We had a great group of guys, and always look forward to doing it again. Till next time.
Till next time.
I caught 2 fish that entire day, but it's the best day of fishing that I think I've ever had, because I got to see my friend accomplish something that was difficult. I got to do it in the most gorgeous place, one of the most gorgeous places in our country, and that's why I fly fish. Okay? So you might be sitting in there, and you might be asking yourself, well, how do you actually do that? How do you actually catch fish on the fly? So just a little educational portion of my program here this evening. I'm going to go through this real quick. If you were here last night, this is repeat material, but I'll kind of get through it quick. And if you have any questions about catching fish with flies, I'll be standing out there by my display after the presentation, and feel free to come up to me and tell me your fishing story or ask me a question about catching fish on flies. But the whole premise of fly fishing is that you take a fly, a creation of materials. That's deer hair, by the way. You see that white spiky stuff at the end of those? That's just basically yarn twisted real tight, wrapped around a hook, and at the end of that hook, there's some deer hair. You just pluck it right off a deer and tie it on there. So those flies that particular pattern is called serendipity, and it imitates a caddisfly larva. Okay? And a caddisfly larva lives in the rivers and streaks and creeks all across the country, all across our state. And that's what fish actually eat. Okay? They eat bugs, aquatic insects that live in the water. So, it's easy to catch a fish with worms and corn and grubs and like bait, but worms and corn and grubs and big puffy power bait, that's not a natural food for a trout. You know what that is for a trout? Kids, do you know what that is? It's like a Twizzler. Okay, you put a Twizzler in front of a kid, you put a Twizzler in front of me, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to eat it, right? But I don't live off of Twizzlers, it's candy. Okay, so a lot of that stuff that we use to catch fish and trout is sort of foreign to them, but it gives off a scent and it attracts them, and it's like processed white sugar. Fish love processed white sugar, no different than humans. But it's not part of our regular diet, or at least it shouldn't be, right? Fish have a regular diet. They feed on aquatic insects that live in the water, okay? And I actually, before I learned how to fly fish, I actually learned how to tie flies. Because I was fascinated by this. I was fascinated with the fact that I could take deer hair, yarn, chicken feathers, any type of material, cat fur, rabbit fur, pheasant tails, and I could use it, put it on a hook and catch a fish with it, something that I created. And so before I even learned to be a fly fisherman, I learned to be a fly tyer. Okay, and so here I am, this is me in my 20-year-old body form. How about that? Yeah, that's 25 years ago, that's what I look like, and there's my brother. Okay, you can see I grew out of that. I'm just gonna put this over here because I'm a mess. I usually am. All right, I'm gonna break that. Yeah, there I am in my younger version. You can see I grew out of that pretty face pretty quick, and my brother is still the brawnier, brainier guy. But we learned to tie flies together because we were just fascinated as brothers to figure out how to catch fish with flies, because that's what fish eat. So just run real quick. There's our basic types of flies, okay? And so here they are. The flies, the aquatic insects, they're called flies because eventually they make it out of the water. They live under the rocks, then they swim up to the surface, and then they're on the surface and they hatch out of their shells, and then they fly away. And so you go to a river or creek in Pennsylvania, particular times of year, spring, particularly summer and the fall, and you just see all kinds of bugs flying around. That's what we call them. They're just flies. But before they're flies, flying in the air, they're subaquatic insects that live on the bottom. And so basically from the top of the water all the way down to in the water is you got dry flies, and there you go. That's moose tail, that's moose fur. Okay, that's a calf, that's cow fur. Those spiky things right there, that's chicken hackle, okay, hen hackle. And then this black stuff here, that's peacock. All things that come from nature. You wrap it around a hook and you get a dry fly. And you cast that on the water, and guess what it does? You think it doesn't sink. It sits right on the surface. And it starts floating down, and a fish underneath sees it and says, yes, I know exactly what that is. It comes up, and you see the take, pow, you got a fish. And that's really what the draw to fly fishing is, dry fly fishing, casting a fly that floats, seeing a fish come up, take it, and hook it. It's the most exhilarating thing. Anybody ever done that before? Raise your hand if you ever caught a fish on a dry fly. There needs to be more people raising their hands, especially knowing where you live. All right? And so that's the essence. But then that adult mayfly, that adult dry fly, it floats, but before it got there, it had to get to the surface. So it would swim from the bottom to the surface. And when these subaquatic insects are swimming to the surface, they're called wet flies or emergers because they're emerging from the bottom of the river all the way up to the surface before they fly off and become quote-unquote flies. And so there you go. You can take some thread, some brown thread, some peacock herl, and some grouse feathers. Those are grouse feathers. And that particular fly right there, called the grouse in orange, is imitating a subaquatic insect that starts at the bottom and swims up to the surface. And before it creates its wings and its wings dry off to fly off, that's what it looks like. And guess what? the fish eat that. And so we call those wet flies. But these wet flies and these dry flies only happen during a hatch. And these bugs only hatch sometimes 3 days a year, depending on the type of bug. So it's really hard to catch fish with wet flies and dry flies because these bugs aren't always swimming up and flying off. Only 10% of a bug's lifespan is spent swimming up to the surface and flying off to the out into the air. The rest of the time that those subaquatic insects live in the water, guess where they are? Anybody? They're on the bottom. They're living under rocks and climbing on rocks. And that's 90% of a fish's diet. And so that there is the same exact insect. These are all the same patterns. And so you take a hook, and you know what this is tied with? You can probably tell. It's all hare's ear. It's rabbit fur with a little bit of turkey. It's a turkey feather right there. All right? And so you tie that, and you try to get it to the bottom of the river, okay? And you can catch fish. That's what it is. So you've got the nymphs that start at the bottom, the emergers, and then the dry flies that fly off. And that's what it is to catch a fish on a fly, is to imitate that natural menu of a trout's diet. There's still another way, okay? Any of you ever use minnows to catch fish? Yeah, that's a lot of fun, right? Well, minnows work because big fish eat little fish. It's just the way it works. I'm glad humans aren't that way. Really not. Kids, you should be glad humans aren't that way. You'd have been on the menu for tonight, okay? But fish are a little different. Big fish eat little fish. And so there are bait fish. They're little minnows that swim in the water. And fish like to eat the little fish. Okay, it's a game. And you can tie a pattern. You can tie some marabou and some hackle and some chenille or peacock on a bigger hook and cast it out and strip that line back at you like you're throwing out a spinner and reeling it in really fast. That's why spinners work. Probably knew that, right? Like a rooster tail or a hustler or any type of spinner. You just cast it out, click that bell, bring it in as fast as you can. Fish will chase it and grab it. Well, you can do that fly fishing as well. And that's my favorite pattern there. That's the woolly bugger. So there's your informational tutorial part of fly fishing, how it all works. You're tying flies to imitate the natural menu of a trout's diet, okay? And so that's how that works. And fishing with those woolly buggers, it's my favorite way. One of my favorite ways to fish. It's called streamer fishing. This is my fly tying bar that I have in my basement, and I spend the winters tying flies. This particular winter, I was tying all these streamers up. By the way, it's kind of funny. I call this my tie one on bar. Anybody have a tie one on bar at home? Why isn't anybody laughing? Come on, I know you're in church. Yeah, you all have a tie. Well, this is where I tie my flies. Tie my flies on here at this bar. All right, so you didn't think the preacher you didn't think the preacher had a tie one on bar in his basement, did you? Well, this preacher does. All right, so you put this all together, and bang, you catch a fish like that. That's a woolly bugger. See that woolly bugger in its mouth? That's a 22-inch brown trout I always carry a woolly bugger around in my hat. There it is, right there. In case I decide to stop and go fishing on my way home tonight, I got a woolly bugger right there, ready to go. And this is one of the bigger fish that I've ever caught out west. All right, so that's basically how fly fishing works. But even if you have all the right flies, you still have to get that fly into the water. Okay, and earlier today, I gave a presentation on all the different kinds of rods and reels and line and things that you need. And again, I'm not going to bore you with that tonight. Okay, but then when you got the flies and you got the rods, you need some gear. You need to outfit the angler, so you get a pair of wading boots, you get a pair of waders, you get a fishing pack, and you got all your accessories with you, your fly boxes, your tippet line, your snips, your pliers, all that stuff. Then you get a net. There's a buddy of mine sent me a picture of how he outfits his net. This is my buddy Craig Thompson. He's got a YouTube channel called Wild Blue Discovery, and we just gave him he got one of these Jennings nets that we're going to be giving away tonight, and he was so excited to get his Jennings net. He was just trying to figure out how how to put it on his pack so that he could, you know, some guys put their nets back here, and some guys hang it off their side, and he's got this way he figured it out where it's just kind of hanging right here. So, because I'll tell you what, you walk around with your net hanging down here, guess what's going to happen to it? Okay, it gets caught in the weeds, and then before you know it, you're walking around, gets caught in the weeds, you don't know it's there, and you keep going. Yeah? Yeah, trust me, you know how many nets I've lost in my life? Oh my goodness. But these guys here, you better tether this to you, because this is a lifetime net. This net will last you a lifetime, and it's the most gorgeous net. There's plenty of them out there, and we'll be giving this one away tonight. So your name gets called after my presentation. I'm telling you what, you're going to want this net. I know the guns will go first, but I dare you to take the net before the gun. I dare you. I dare you. You got all the flies in the world. You got all the best rods in the world. You got all the right gear. Does that mean you're going to still catch a fish when you go out fishing? You're right. Because it's not the fly that catches the fish. You are the one that has to catch fish. And this is my buddy Curtis. My buddy Curtis is the funnest guy to fish with ever. He is hysterical. And he's always complaining. If he sees me catching a fish, he's like, hey, what are you using? What are you using? And he'll tie it on, and then I'll catch another fish. What are you using? What are you using? And eventually I was like, Curtis, it's not the fly. You're the one who has to catch the fish with the fly. And so we found this t-shirt. This t-shirt perfectly describes my friend Curtis. Curtis, I hope you're watching, buddy. I love you. I want to show you a quick video clip of Curtis catching a fish. All right, got Curtis standing in the nymph run right now. Try to get him into one or two fish before we leave. We got to push off here and just can't stay here too long. We got 9 miles of river to navigate today. So I want to tell you my nymph rig today. I'll start way at the bottom of my rig. This is what I've been catching them on. Just a little tan Ray Charles that my brother Jason tied up. It's got a flashback and some ostrich hurl. That's all it is. Above that, I've got a weighted orange scud. Curtis and I tied up the other night. This kind of helps it gets it down. Just an orange scud. I used some rubber legs for the tail, just white rubber legs. You can see that. So that's next thing up is my split shot, about another 12 or 14 inches up, and I got 3 size BB split shot. And then based upon the depth of the run, the nymph run that I'm fishing, I figured it's about 2 to 3 feet deep in there, probably maybe a little more. So I've got actually about twice that, 6 feet of line between my weight and my indicator.
That's not a bobber.
So that's the rig that we're using.
Fly fishermen call those
and
indicators.
We're having a good time here
You can
today.
call them a bobber if you like.
Come on, Curtis.
Let's get one.
Come on, let me see you get one. Oh,
There it is.
there it is. Yeah.
Called it, he called it.
Oh, we called it. That's awesome. Yeah. Let's go get him.
Where's that smile?
Let me see that smile.
There's that smile.
There's that smile. Let's
There
see
it
it. All right. I'm going to go net the fish for him. And we ordered that up. We ordered that up, buddy.
That's like McDonald's.
All right. There he is. Let's keep him in the water here. You do the talking, bud. It's your fish.
Yeah. You put me in the spot. Ordered it up.
Oh, he swallowed that puppy. No, it's right on the top of his lip.
No hesitation with these fish. As soon as you feel that, it's on there.
All right, pick him up and then hold him
smashed it.
towards the camera. All right. Then put him back in here.
Yeah.
Hold him closer. We're going to have to turn around. This way. Where's that fish? Bring him up, put him out closer. There's a fish. Yeah.
All right. Wrap it up here tonight. What was the best part of that video?
the smile, my buddy catching a fish. We relive that memory all the time. You know, it's just the richness of fishing with friends. It's the richness of being a sportsman and doing these recreational activities, like I had said earlier. And it's not just about the fish. There's a richness. How many of you are here with somebody you hunt or fish with? Right? You came here together, right? This is part of why we do what we do, because it's more than just killing the deer or trapping the coyote or catching the fish. There is, as I said earlier, this wonderful connection we have with the rhythms of God's creation, but then we get to do it with other people. These are my buddies here. This is Chris and Mike. You met Mike already. That's Jacob's dad, and that's me there in the Pittsburgh Pirate looking green. And this is my buddy Carl. And my buddy Carl and these guys, like, we have a text group together, and we're always texting each other. We're sharing life together, all because we took this trip together. The four of us have only been fishing together one time on a trip, but we still stay in connection with one another almost every single day, right? They represent for me the friendships that are fostered in being involved in a recreational activity together, all right? And I think my buddy Carl here, he's an excellent fisherman, by the way. This is a big brown trout that he caught on this trip that we took. I think my buddy Carl can explain it best of what it means to experience the riches of recreation with friends. Okay, so Carl, by the way, I don't fish with Carl a lot. Mainly one big reason, he always outfishes me. Always. This guy, he ties up this little thing called a brown bomber. I swear it's the only fly he ever used. I've never seen him tie on any other fly. And he can take that fly, it's what we like to call his confidence fly. Okay? And he just knows how to use it. He knows how to make it work. And if he puts it anywhere near a trout, he'll catch one. And that's exactly what like, the brown bomber is never used on this river. I've caught fish on this river my entire life. Carl shows up, I'm going to use my brown bomber. Whoop, ding. He catches this big, beautiful brown trout. But Carl, you see, he's not only one. I met Carl when I went to Lamaze class. His wife and my wife were pregnant at the same time 18 years ago. That's where I met Carl. We met in a Lamaze class. Do they still do Lamaze classes? I don't know. Maybe online, right? Anyway, so I meet Carl 18 years ago, and we find out we both fly fish, and we've been friends ever since. And what's really cool is our daughters got to grow up together as well. And so Carl and I take this trip a couple years ago, and he's always out fishing me. And then Carl had this idea. He's not just a great fisherman, he's a great craftsman. He's a cabinet maker by trade and does kitchen works. And God, my goodness, he's the most amazing craftsman that I've ever seen. And he had this unction about a year and a half ago to take this skill that God gave him to work with wood to build these nets right here. I mean, I know a lot of people have been grabbing these nets that are out there, and they're like, I would never fish with this. It's too beautiful to fish with. Well, let me tell you, Carl made these nets so that people would fish with them. Just make sure you tether them. Okay? This could be something you just hand off to your grandchild. I mean, this is a gorgeous piece of craftsmanship here. But Carl had the unction, and he had the dream and the vision to build nets, but to build nets for more than just netting fish. Why? Because fly fishing is more than what? It's more than catching fish. And Carl has experienced that in his life, that fly fishing is more than just catching fish. And so he thought, I'm going to create a net that is more than just netting fish. And so he puts his skills together that God gave him to craft these amazing nets. There's 7 layers of laminate wood, curly maple and walnut in the rim, in the hoop, and then a beautiful curly maple handle, and he glues it together, and he puts like 10 coats of finish on it. I mean, he's probably going to kill me sorry, Ben, I'm beating up your pulpit here. Your pulpit's taken more beating than my net. And Carl, the fact that he has the ability to take a piece of wood, a dead piece of wood, a piece of walnut that you find in the woods, or you buy at a rough lumber shop. This is a tree that was once a mighty living tree, and now it's dead. Yeah? It's a dead piece of wood, drying out, no purpose. It's going to ashes to ash, dust to dust. It's destined to just be dirt someday. And he has this ability of taking this piece of walnut that is lifeless and making it into such a beautiful piece of fishing gear. Yeah? You know what that's called? When you're able to take something that's dead and make it into something beautiful. You know what we call that? We call that recreation. Ah, I caught you, didn't I? The riches of recreation. Look at that word. Recreation, the thing that we all enjoy. Fishing, hunting. Yeah, it's actually, look, pronounce it differently. What is it? Everybody say it. It's not recreation, it's what? It's recreation. Taking something that is dead and making it beautiful. Taking something that's burned out because of your work and you're working long hours, but then you go fishing and you feel refreshed and rejuvenated. You know what they call that? Recreation. Taking something that is lifeless and dull and dead and destined for the grave and making it into something beautiful. That's what the richness of recreation is all about. And Carl wanted to do that. And so he creates these nets so that folks can use them for the purposes of not just netting fish, but entering into the riches of recreation through recreation. And he does this as a ministry. He does this as something, because what he realizes when he makes these nets, and he puts a little, you can see it on every one of his nets. On one side, he has his name, Jennings, and on the other side, he has a little slogan. And his slogan is, redeem the time. You know why? Because we only have so much time on this earth. The time that we have on this earth is a gift from God. In the midst of that time, we have to be redeemed. We have to be recreated. Because if you're not recreated, if you're not reborn, then you are just a dead piece of wood that is waiting to rot and become ash and dirt. But Carl knows more than that. He knows the beauty of taking something dead and making it alive. And you know where he learned that? From the Bible. He learned that from the Bible, because God's in the business of taking things that are dead and making them into beautiful pieces of art. And you know what those pieces of art are? Those who trust in Jesus Christ. Now I'm preaching. You better believe I'm preaching. Because we only have so much time on this earth. We really do. We got to take that time. It's a gift for us. Anybody ask for the sunset this morning? Did you ask for it? Did anybody earn the sunrise? No. It's a gift. And you don't know how many of them you get. It's a gift of God. It's a beautiful expression of His grace. He's given us all time. And in the time that He's given us, folks, He's given us an opportunity to be recreated. And so redeem the time. We don't know how much time we have. Follow Jesus. Become a fisher of men. And I end with maybe where I was earlier. Another quote from A River Runs Through It. My father was sure about certain matters that pertain to the universe. To him, all good things, trout as well as your eternal salvation, comes to us by grace. And grace is an art. And art does not come easy. Folks, redeem the time. Enter into a relationship with Jesus Christ. Be recreated into something old that's dying and destined for the grave. Trust in Jesus. Will recreate you into something beautiful. Something that lasts forever. There's no clear connection to me, no clear difference between following Jesus and fly fishing. Both of them express the beauty and grace that we find in recreation. God bless all of you. Blessings to all of you. I hope you win a gun. But beyond that hope, redeem the time. Be recreated. I hope you get this net too. Pastor Ben?